The president's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, agreed to a plea deal with prosecutors Tuesday. Cohen pleaded guilty to 8 criminal counts, including one for a payment to 2 women who claimed to have had affairs with Mr. Trump. Speaking outside the courthouse Tuesday, a deputy U.S. attorney underscored how Cohen is a trained lawyer himself and should have known better.
Mr. Cohen disregarded that training, disregarded that tradition, and decided that he was above the law, and for that he was going to pay a very, very serious price.
Cohen surrendered himself to the FBI Tuesday morning. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang has the latest.
Michael Cohen left Manhattan federal court late this evening after pleading guilty to 8 felony charges and admitting he and then-candidate Trump worked to cover up his alleged affairs during the 2016 campaign. At times emotional, Cohen told the judge that in violation of campaign finance laws, he paid 2 women hush money in coordination and at the direction of a candidate for federal office for the principal purpose of influencing the election. He also admitted to bank fraud and tax evasion. Deputy U.S. Attorney Robert Kazami spoke soon after.
These are very serious charges and reflect a pattern of lies and dishonesty over an extended period of time. They are significant in their own rights. They are particularly significant when done by a lawyer.
Cohen is at the center of the Stormy Daniels controversy. He admitted to paying the adult film star $130,000 right before the 2016 election to keep her quiet about an alleged affair with President Trump. The president initially denied knowing about the payment.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
No.
But later, the president disclosed he reimbursed Cohen. In June, Mr. Trump reacted to the possibility of pardoning Cohen if he ever faced charges.
It certainly is far too early to be thinking about that.
And he criticized the FBI for raiding Cohen's home and office in New York, seizing thousands of materials and documents.
I think that was unfortunate that they broke into a lawyer's office. Not a good practice.
Cohen had worked as the president's attorney and fixer for more than a decade and was known for his fierce loyalty.
And I'll do anything to protect Mr. Trump.
But their relationship took a dark turn in July when Cohen released a secret recording of his conversation with then-candidate Trump about payments related to a Playboy model who claims she also had an affair with Mr. Trump.
What financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay the kid.
No. No.
The president tweeted, "What kind of lawyer would tape a client? So sad."
And joining me now from Charleston, West Virginia, is CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, what details do we know about Cohen's plea deal?
Well, we know that all the charges added up together, 8 felony charges, carried a maximum sentence of 65 years. And now he only faces up to 5 years and 3 months. And that gives you a picture of why it was so important to Cohen to strike this deal. Our sources told us that, even this morning he was going back and forth about whether to accept a plea deal. And in the end, he did. He has said many times before that his loyalty first is to his family. So imagine, the consequences of more than 60 years versus a little more than 5 years.
Right.
But what's really interesting is what we've learned in the language that Cohen has spelled out this story in this deal, and he pled guilty to not only cooperating with a candidate to sway the election results, but at the direction of that candidate. Now, President Trump was not named. However, obviously, this is exactly who he was talking about. And it's now, part of this case, part of this plea deal, that Cohen is on the record saying that it was then candidate Trump who told him to pay this hush money to different women in order to win the election.
Right. Now, Weijia, even with the plea deal, Cohen is still looking at prison time. How likely is it that he will do at least some time behind bars?
Well, as part of the agreement, he has agreed not to challenge from 46 months to 63 months behind bars. And so there is a very good chance he could spend some of that time in prison. But what's to be determined is whether he will cooperate in other cases. Now, this was a straight plea deal. He pled guilty to 8 counts, but he did not address in this particular deal cooperating with investigators in other cases. If he chooses to do that, that could impact the amount of time he gets when he is sentenced, and that is set for December.
Right. Now, as you mentioned just a little while ago, Cohen did admit Tuesday that he arranged payments to 2 women, quote, at the direction of the candidate in exchange for silence about their alleged affairs with, of course, we know then nominee Trump. So why is it significant? I mean, is he really pointing the finger at the president here?
Yeah, he really is. And now, we also have on record President Trump changing his story, at least when it comes to the payment with Stormy Daniels. Initially, he denied knowing anything about it, but then later he acknowledged that he reimbursed Cohen for that payment. And then there's a second woman, and that's this Playboy model, Karen McDougal, and she says that she was also paid off for her story, and she sold her story to the National Enquirer. And allegedly, the owner of that, who is good friends with President Trump, agreed not to release that story, and the president may have reimbursed him. Now, they deny that. In fact, the president has said, he was trying to be straight with those payments because it was on an audio recording that Cohen released. So there is that audio recording, but there's discrepancy in terms of what that recording captured.
Right.
And so there's a lot of he said and he said and he said, but what we have now is Cohen's version, at least, spelling out what he says happened, and the president could have to defend himself because, at least according to Cohen, Donald Trump conspired to be part of this federal crime.
Well, speaking of, he said, is the White House then preparing for the possibility of Cohen cooperating with special counsel Robert Mueller in the Russia probe? Are they making any sort of legal arrangements around this?
Well, certainly it is a possibility that they have been looking at, but let's not forget that, it isn't the special counsel that has indicted Michael Cohen. This happened in Manhattan federal court, and it's unknown how useful of a witness Cohen would be to the special counsel at this point. It's too hard to make that connection right away, even though those 2 dots are very clearly there.
Sure.
But certainly when it comes to campaign finance violations, that's a lot easier to draw given what Cohen has said. But the White House is aware that Cohen has almost been dangling to special counsel Mueller the fact that, he has information, he has goods like this secret audio tape that he released to the media. Perhaps, because he knew that charges were imminent and they were coming.
Right.
And so there's a lot of questions still left to be answered in terms of, whether Robert Mueller wants to interview Cohen for other information that might be linked to obstruction, collusion, and Russia, and how, likely it is that Cohen will do that now that he has officially been charged.
And so, do we know any further details surrounding why Cohen decided to turn himself into the FBI on Tuesday?
I think that it was very clear that he had made mistakes and that he had already come out with his own personal attorney and acknowledged these payments, acknowledged his involvement in them. And I think he realized that, he faced huge consequences if he didn't fess up to it. And so this was, again, not an easy decision for Cohen. It's something that he grappled with. But in the end, decided to turn himself in. He left the courthouse without saying anything. And now he has a good bit of time to think about, what his next steps are. Because his sentencing is not until December.
Because there will be no trial now, right, Weijia? So he just waits for sentencing?
That's right. And, this could have been a much stickier situation for Cohen. Again, in which, it was left up to a jury how much time he could have served behind prison. But now he has until December to be a free man. He actually went home or got into a car this evening after leaving court, after posting $500,000 bail, giving up his firearms and passport. And so now he's, just waiting for that sentencing.
At least he can spend it at home with his family. All right.
Exactly.
Weijia Jiang, thank you so much.
Thanks.